need to grab our attention. And if it feels like a little bit of a hit or a miss, that's because it often is, but it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to think about, did 50% of my budget reach or not reach my audience? That age-old question. Today, we're cracking the code on how you can even the odds for your app or your brand by increasing your slice of the attention pie. And here on Mobile Explorers to help us unravel this mystery and get to the bottom of this, get to the source, my co-host, Mark Slade. His day job is VP Brand and Managing Director, Brand Partnerships for Digital Turbine in the UK, Germany, and France. And across your 15 years in the industry, Mark, you have built mobile ad networks. You have founded your own premium mobile ad agency, and you've worked with 23 of the top 25 global brands. And you've got the cred, you've got the street cred. You belong on the show, Mark. You definitely belong on the show. Where are you coming from today, by the way?
We're in London, in our office in Farringdon. So, our new office for DT. So it's quite exciting.
Well, that is impressive, Mark. And of course, the show's going to be impressive because here we are, Mobile Explorers. We explore exciting new topics. We go where no one has gone before.
Yes, Peggy, it's exciting. I'm very, very excited to introduce Karen Nelson-Field to our Mobile Explorer series. Karen is the co-founder and CEO of Amplified Intelligence, an all-round legend when it comes to the advertising research industry, and a pioneer of the new and emerging space of attention measurement in advertising. Attention for us at Digital Turbine is a big thing. We are super focused on it. But on a personal level, I'm a massive fan of yours, Karen. I could listen to you for hours and hours. So you have my attention. And I bet you're sick of everyone playing puns on the attention pun with you.
For if I had $1 for every time.
So we know about your background, but hey, we don't know that much about you. So we want to explore our guest. Obviously, you're into research, you're into exploration, discoveries. It's baked into your DNA. What was your aha moment?
I think my aha moment in my research was sort of partway through where I started to understand that the metrics that we trade on just don't work. And the other thing that's super fun is when you start to recognize that there are patterns underneath that. So when you can actually see that human behavior can actually be predicted because it's quite systematic globally. So those were probably two big things for me.
Outside of research, what are the things that interest you on a personal level? What are the things that take you out your comfort zone on a personal level?
Oh, comfort zone. So who starts a business, right, at my age? So I think that of all things would be something that I could safely say has taken me out of my comfort zone. I was resigned to being a tenured academic forever. But, when you see an opportunity in the marketplace and you have the opportunity to make change, you got to jump in, right?
What's the interesting piece to the business side? Do you like the fundraising bit? Is that fun? Or the
oh God, no.
Business plan stuff, recruitment, man management?
No.
Which is the fun bit?
No, none of that. What I love is being able to build things, right? Where you've got some really deep data and you can make a difference with the products that land. And essentially the space we're in is we're building a category. I mean, it's very unusual for businesses to be at the literal start of a category change, right? So for me, that's been the most fun thing.
So I have to say, now I'm really a fan, Karen, right? I mean, building a business, being a category maker, it takes you out of your comfort zone. I'm just thinking, wow, glad you did it. First of all,
thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, you've got our attention, literally. We've been talking about it. Now we're really going to do it. We're going to explore attention right now.
So my first question is, how do Amplified Intelligence look at attention? How do you define it? And how is that different from some of the other vendors in the marketplace?
So I love that question because the definition of attention is universal. How humans interact with something is the definition of attention, and that is defined. Where the confusion lie is how you operationalize that. How do you collect attention from humans versus its definition? And I think it's a really important point for your listeners because I'm kind of tired of hearing that we need a single definition. All we need to do is work out how do we operationalize the definition, which is literally, that someone or a human stops what they're doing even for a fleeting moment and pays concentrated awareness on that thing or person to learn something. That is technically the definition. Now, in the case of ads, that's harder to achieve. But that's the whole conversation around attention and economics. And that is, how can we get someone to do that and concentrate on what they're doing and filter everything else out to learn something? So there are essentially two sort of discrete sets of data, right? So one is, and it's interesting because I often talk about it in the context of inward and outward facing. Outward facing is what we used to do in the olden days of media and legacy media, where we would actually do surveys or people meters or some sort of basic human form of ethnography, right? Where we would actually find out what a human does during their day or how they're interacting with media. That was called outward facing. And then the inward facing piece now has taken over, which is essentially tagging creative and following people around the internet to sort of understand or make assumptions about human behavior. And that's where it all went awry. So attention data was in its early form viewability, and it's certainly in its early form completion and time in view. And where I believe it needs to be, and there are a few vendors in the space in the same vein, is that we need to get back to being able to essentially understand human behavior using cameras on devices with consent. So basically, Mike, there's two types of data, right? So there's human-based data, which is about filming people with consent to understand how they interact in real time with different media types. And then there's the inward-facing measures, which is still vast tags sitting on the back of impression data, but they each have their own limitations, right? So human data is considered ground truth because it actually is observed and it's the real data, in that but it's small by comparison to the billions and billions of impressions that run every day, right? The opposite for that is that, there's huge scale impression data, but it doesn't tell you a lot about how humans interact. So it's the combination of the two, which is the future of attention economics.
Karen, what are the things in the industry that you think is causing this increased focus on attention? I mean, my job day in, day out is to sell ads into media agencies. And for me, the thing that's changing is, with the death of the cookie and device IDs, media owners, vendors, advertising agencies are all looking for different things now to sell their ads into agencies. And maybe there's not such a focus on targeting and mythical targeting in many ways. Now it feels like there's more focus back on traditional metrics like the strength of the format and the creativity.
Look, 2023, year of efficiency, right? So I think advertisers and also agencies are tired of poor performance. And the more important thing is, I think over the last sort of 4 to 5 years, we've really revealed the truth around inaccuracy around these metrics that are out there, right? So I think it's less about the cookie depletion, because attention to some degree helps advertisers become more effective and efficient, but it doesn't replace the cookie, right, in that sense. So I think it's kind of two parts. And I think what advertisers are looking for is to tidy up and to tighten up their efficiency and effectiveness on media buys, media trading. And so, as soon as you reveal the truth around what's happening under the pipes, I think advertisers and agencies have gone, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity for us to save money yet do better. So it's a bit back to basics, which is what you were kind of saying.
My perspective came from the fact that in a world where you could do all these targeting things on digital, just the endless stories are in marketplace about different ways in which you can use different data points to target, the format and the basic principles of advertising get lost in digital particularly. And that's my view, is that why now that's gone, people returning to things like, was the ad viewed? Did people see it? Did they see it to the end? How receptive were they to the ad unit?
Yeah, to me, that's just the realization that time in view tells you little about human attention. The fact that this particular variable that we've all been using in the digital space for so long is actually failing the ecosystem. And I think it's just the big reveal. I think, quite frankly, it's all the research that's been done and all of the continual, testing and retesting and going, oh my gosh, yeah, there is actually a big reveal here, and what you rely on doesn't give you what you think. So I think it's more that.
So, Karen, I have to follow up on that, because part of the big surprise you have is also that not just finding out what attention is and defining it and saying it's not just the length that you view something, but really important, it is inextricably intertwined, interlinked, whatever you want to call it, with the platform as well. So it's not just what you're seeing, but it's also where you're seeing it, that context. I'd like to hear you unpack that a little bit and share maybe the biggest surprise in that research.
So most people think, putting creative on platform A versus platform B, the creative will essentially drive how much attention is gained from that platform. But the reality is it's the other way around, that, to your point, the platform itself defines how much attention that you will gain by the nature of the user experience. So I think it's kind of an upside down world to what most people think. If you build a good creative, they will come. It doesn't work that way. The creative is actually, I call it, tempered by the performance of the platform. So the user experience, interestingly, most people that build user experiences in these big platforms think that they're driving attention, but in often case, they're driving non-attention or distraction. So the platform is without a doubt number one on the hierarchy in terms of how much attention you as a brand will achieve regardless of the creative. And to your point, context is a part of those factors. So there's a whole lot of factors that define that user experience. Context and relevancy plays a big role as well.
I think this is what is a really interesting thing for me about the attention economy and this metric, is that digital's been pretty poor at creating ad units, video ad units particularly. The metrics across digital in terms of amount of time that people look at a video, the amount of real estate that it consumes, the percentage of audio is sort of under 10%. I come from a creative agency background, and you think of these guys in agencies and brand managers creating this 20-second ad, even 15, 30-second ad. And then the majority of it on digital goes into a world that has barely any audio, barely a world where it gets completed in corners of screens. So for me, it's crazy that this has gone on for nearly 20 years in terms of digital video. So it's good that we have this measurement. It's good that we actually take a bit of a reality check on digital video and go, well, this isn't good enough at the minute.
I think it's important to also sort of say, we're not good at fit for purpose either as creatives, right? So we've kind of all come from a time when if you put a 15-second ad on, you know that you're going to get, let's just call it 10 seconds or 20 or 12 seconds. But if we put a 30-second, you expect that you get commensurately more. So you get kind of 25 seconds. And so I think it's important to say that we as an industry don't understand all these nuances, and because there is a role to play for fleeting exposure, right? And so it's not always about more time. Sometimes it's about refreshing memory for brands that are existing or already large, right? So I think it's important that it's both, but I think it's the digital space has been remiss in, I guess, helping advertisers understand what they're dealing with. And that's kind of this big reveal that we're doing at the moment is, really helping people understand that, if you want to be on that website, fine, but you've got to build it for a second or for 2 seconds or for 3 seconds, whatever it might be, and just accept that.
I look at video advertising, and the majority of it is it's sort of in-feed scrollable video format on digital. That's where the lion's share of video budgets go. And as your research suggests, it's a couple of seconds of attention. Why do you think they're putting video ad units into something that gets 2 seconds? It could do a great job as display. It's not going to get through any of the video unit itself. So why put a video unit in there?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because we only just saw quite recently that you are correct that, you're probably better off putting a static ad there because it's actually lower CPM, but it gets you no more or less attention than a video ad in that context anyway. But most people don't really understand that, because unless you're filming humans, how are you going to understand that? Attention is two-dimensional in that it's not just how long you're spending, but it's how you focus. So my 2 seconds of time might be sitting there looking at Peggy like this, whereas her 2 seconds of time looking at my way might be kind of half here, half there, but she still has 2 seconds of time as an average. So I think that's where impression attention data, and particularly proxies that are dressed as attention, miss the boat, because they look at averages or units or indexes, but don't really understand the distribution of how humans are actually interacting.
You make a very interesting point about the platform playing such a role in the performance of an ad, in capturing my attention. Go through that hierarchy.
I can kind of split it into 2 types. So those that have less scrollability or less ability to leave the room or less ability to skip or less desire to leave the room, and obviously in the gaming space is this one, they're the ones that will drive longer attention time and more considered focus, right? Whereas the opposite is true. So if you kind of split them down the middle, that's probably the best division, rather than saying this platform and that platform are pretty average and this platform and this platform are pretty good. And, when you actually think about it, it makes common sense that, something that you can scroll past really quickly, you might get 90% of your audience looking for half a second, but then they drop off. So there's this massive decay. So when you understand all of that, you can apply those indicators essentially to reach curves and improve your reach-based planning, for example, whereas at the moment reach-based planning is all over the place, because you make an assumption that every second of time that your ad is on screen, the 1,000 people are watching, and it's far from the truth.
That's mind-blowing, Mark. What do you make of that? I mean, you're in the industry, you're listening to that, and it's such a new discussion, but it is so very basic. What have you seen?
Yes, so we commissioned some research with Karen's company to explore the attention that we get from our rewarded video format, which is our in-game video format. That's full screen. We have audio on. It's non-skippable. And then we have what's called an end card at the end of the video, where people can interact with a little kind of mini microsite around the video. So for us, it's really important to get attention research on our format, because we're a new category for advertisers. Majority of advertisers spend a lot of their digital money on social. We're trying to persuade the market that a scrollable video format is not as good as a full screen video format with audio. And we got some really good research back from Amplified Intelligence, and we were really interested to see how attention changes over time of the ad unit and then what we have on the end card. So we saw relatively little decay of active attention through the ad unit and then the end card, which was really cool. That just shows you that we keep people's attention. We were quite surprised how we maintained an active attention levels through the longer ad unit formats, like the 20 and 30 seconds. And I suppose the other observation was we seem to get more active attention on our end card unit than we did on the video unit. So the two of them work together really well, the video and then the end card. But really interested to get your perspective, Karen, on the data.
We see 2 types of distributions, right? We see the ones that are flatter, which is to your point that there's a fairly consistent amount of active attention from all of the users across time. And then we get those where the distribution starts, where there's lots of people watching and then they scroll off really fast, right? And those shapes change slightly, but essentially one's flatter, one's steep. The ones that are flatter are the ones where longer form video or longer form ads actually work. So let me explain. On the ones that are fairly sort of quick to drop off, if you put a 10-second ad on one of those, you'll get, let's just call it 3 seconds. If you then put a 15-second ad on one of those, you'll still only get 3 seconds. By putting a longer ad, it does not give you more attention. It's the opposite with the flat ones. So when you get a flat distribution, you put a 10-second on, let's call it 5. When you put a 15 on, you get 7.5. When you put a 30 on, you get 15 seconds. So it actually, the amount of active attention actually grows with the ad length. So this is really valuable for brands, because if you choose to want a longer form, which has a storyline, which has a big reveal, a brand reveal, which then those are the types of platforms you want to use.
Attention's great. Obviously, the more attention you get, the better it is. But brands are looking for kind of outcomes from attention, like recall and selling more products. It'd be great to maybe explain to us how you look at that and how you measure that within your platform.
The easiest way for us to understand attention is by seconds. And we kind of, in the early days, talked about more active, the better. And that is to a degree the case, but it's more nuanced than that, because you might only need a certain amount to drive an outcome. Like I said, it's a combination of focus and time that might lead to an outcome before you need 15 seconds. It's really important for us to say you only need as much as you need. But yeah, so interestingly, some of the industry folks that in the market kind of talk about us always sort of looking for the more attention, the better. And I think I'll tell you this, attention is better than no attention. And I was thinking earlier, Peggy, that, I still get asked to this day if attention's important. So attention's important, but it's not necessarily the most attention that you can possibly get from a platform.
I want to stitch this together a bit, because what's exciting about what you're sharing, Karen, is that we need to choose the platforms that are good for our brand, that are explaining the message, that are attracting the audience or engrossing them. Now, there are different platforms for different purposes, but there's also choices to make. What can you say to a marketer to help them make a choice for their brand, for their app, for what they're offering?
Look, I think that's a great question. And I think when you understand how much, like I said, how much attention is achievable by platform, format, ad unit, and then how that plays into demographics, then you can do a mix. If you're doing a brand new, if it's a brand new brand or revealing a brand new variant, you're going to need more seconds to be able to get the message across. When you are refreshing memory structures because you're a big brand with a big distinctive asset, you don't need as much attention, so you can afford to have fewer seconds paid. But I think the important piece here is it's a mix. And I also think what viewers don't really understand is, everyone kind of talks about the Facebooks and the YouTubes and the general webs, but within those platforms, they have formats that differ unto themselves. I mean, you said this earlier before, Mark. I mean, you've got different ad units yourself, right? So it's also about the formats that are within those platforms that vary so significantly. So you can have a really, really average, high scrollable product, but in the same platform have a really great sticky video format.
The interesting thing for me, Karen, is and what the next phase for Digital Turbine is to try and look at what the optimal mix of formats would be from an attention point of view. Because clearly just serving someone a 30-second ad 5 times is probably not the most efficient in terms of attention. So it's not. Like the old media mix modeling that we used to do in traditional TV world doesn't really exist in digital. You don't tend to get people looking at, okay, so how do I combine my 15-second non-skippable with a 6-second and maybe a display as well, and to create my ultimate reach curve when it comes to attention.
Yeah, so we have just launched a planning product that does that. So it incorporates all the distribution curves, and it allows you to normalize your reach curve off of the back of all these distributions. It allows to do exactly what you said. Like, you can upload your own media plan that has 15-second statics versus 15-second video. And then you can add constraints to it. So you have to spend this much amount on this one because you've got to deal with these people. And so this is the kind of thing that we've been building for quite a few years. So, hopefully we see your data in there at some point, and people can use that to mix with your formats.
It's exciting.
I have to say, this is exciting. It's almost like bringing you both together. It wasn't like this, but we're talking about like going where no one has gone before, exploring opportunities. That's certainly what's going to happen here. You have this already, Karen. You're thinking in that direction. Mark, what can we expect here? What is the future? What is the opportunity and the possibility for marketers?
Well, I suppose from our side, we hope that attention becomes a tradable metric, programmatic or managed service. So that is the outcome in which brands trade media, or a more significant mechanic in which they trade media than it is now. That would be the dream for us, because as a format, we do really well at it. We'll take a bit of time, and the programmatic pipes will need to be plugged in, but companies like Amplified Intelligence are going to help us get there, I hope.
It's not that far away. So, we've got all the baseline data, we can build that out. So, to be honest, the hard part is all the norms that, companies like yours have allowed us to collect over time. That's the hard part, because then once you've got that, you can start to build accurate prediction against trading or verification, and that's kind of where we're at. So
let's explore those takeaways. I'll start with you, Karen. What should one take away from the show today?
The one that I often talk to advertisers about is make the most of the attention gained. Getting someone's attention is precious, so make the most of that, and that is bringing the branding piece in, right? I also think advertisers need to understand and be realistic with how much attention they can gain, because most people think that you can put a longer ad on and for people to hold focus, and that is not the case.
Okay, Mark, you take it away.
We're focused on attention, and we're going to be releasing a lot of research to kind of give more insights into our formats and our platform to advertisers. So we're excited about the future, and we're excited about how attention metrics become more and more important to our brands and agencies that we sell to.
I'll ask you, Karen, the end game. What is the end game here? Where do you see attention in 10 years?
So the end game is that I do myself out of a job, Peggy, because, my job has been to kind of carefully highlight the error that sits underneath the pipes, right? So there'll be a point where attention is part of a currency that is a total unit, and then my job is done and I can retire. So I think that the end game is that every single agency and every single brand accepts that this augmented or advanced currency, however you want to call it, just essentially adds that layer of quality to what we're using. And then we just recalibrate the way that we buy and trade. That's the end game. And then I'm retiring.
The attention economy, where do you see it in the next 10 years? And from your perspective, really interesting, Mark, is that you have seen this in all the discussion we had about viewability. It's almost like a little bit of deja vu. How has it evolved? How will it evolve? What's your take?
Yeah, if you look at viewability now, that's table stakes with brands and agencies, and viewability metrics are on every campaign. So you would assume that the attention economy evolves in the same way that in a few years' time, no campaigns from major agencies or brands would go without an attention verification on it as well. And it'll be part of the key metrics that they look at in terms of analyzing campaigns.
So in other words, Karen, you're going to be in business for a while.
No, I love my job, don't get me wrong. But that to me is the ultimate nirvana, because that's what I what I learned was the issue with the industry. If I can kind of fulfill that vision and it's table stakes like viewability, then I'm done. I'm surfing.
You're surfing, and we're doing really well because, Mark, then there's a viewability tag on everything and people understand attention, which is what this show has been about. I want to thank you so much, Karen, for sharing your insights and, above all, helping us explore some pretty cool new areas as well, helping us see it differently. Thanks so much for sharing, Karen.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Karen.
Thanks for tuning in, fellow explorers. Want to be featured on our next show so you can brag about your successes? Then just click the link below, answer 3 quick questions, and you might find yourself smack dab in the special guest seat on our next show. And thanks again to our sponsor, The Brag Report from Digital Turbine and Apptopia. Mobile Explorers is sponsored by The Brag Report, the industry source of brand-centric insights for a mobile-centric world. Handcrafted by the mobile gurus over at Digital Turbine and Apptopia.